My name is Sarah Chen, and for the past 5 years, I've been working as a senior paralegal at Preston, Mitchell, and Ross, one of New York's most prestigious law firms. At least that's what everyone thinks. The truth is far more interesting, and it's about to shake the foundations of corporate law in Manhattan. What the esteemed partners at Preston Mitchell don't know is that I passed the bar exam 15 years ago, graduating summa cum laude from Yale Law. I've been secretly handling complex legal cases for over a decade through my own private consulting firm, winning judgments totaling over $2 billion. But at Preston Mitchell, I'm just another paralegal, invisible in my sensible shoes and simple suits. It wasn't supposed to be this way. After law school, I had my pick of top firms. But during my first year as an associate at a prestigious Chicago firm, I discovered something disturbing. The legal industry's obsession with appearances over substance, with connections over competence. Cases were won and lost not on their merits, but on who knew whom at the country club. So I made a radical decision. I started my own legal consulting firm under a different name, working remotely with select clients while maintaining a low-profile career as a paralegal. It let me practice law the way I believed it should be practiced, based on meticulous research, innovative legal theory, and unwavering ethics. Preston Mitchell hired me 5 years ago, not knowing they were getting one of the most successful corporate lawyers in America. I chose them because they had just landed the account I've been watching for years. Global Innovations, a tech company on the verge of a major breakthrough in clean energy. Just keep the files organized, William Preston II had said during my interview, barely looking up from his phone. And try to dress professionally. We have important clients coming through. If he bothered to really check my background, he might have noticed that my previous experience included managing complex international litigation. But Preston, like most of the partners, saw only what he expected to see, another disposable support staff member. For 5 years, I watched as Preston Mitchell's lawyers bumbled their way through cases, winning more on their reputation than their skill. I quietly fixed their mistakes, slipping crucial precedents into their research files, anonymously pointing out fatal flaws in opposing counsel's arguments. Then came the case that would change everything. Global Innovations was planning a $500 million merger with their biggest competitor, creating what could be the world's first truly viable clean energy conglomerate. Preston Mitchell was set to handle the deal. I knew this merger inside and out. Through my consulting firm, I've been advising several clean energy startups on similar deals. I understood the technical details, the regulatory hurdles, and most importantly, the hidden pitfalls that could sink the entire transaction. The first warning sign came during the preliminary strategy meeting. I sat in the back of the conference room, taking notes as the partners discussed their approach. "We'll structure it like the Apex merger last year," James Mitchell declared confidently. "Standard boilerplate, quick and clean." I cringed internally. The Apex deal structure would be disastrous for this merger. The regulatory requirements for clean energy technology were completely different. But when I tried to speak up, Mitchell cut me off. "Just take notes, Ms. Chen. Leave the legal strategy to those of us who actually went to law school." I bit my tongue and kept writing. That evening, I stayed late, carefully documenting all the potential problems with their approach. I left the research on Mitchell's desk, anonymously of course. He'd ignored it. The next week, during the first meeting with Global Innovation CEO, Dr. Helen Wang, I watched in horror as Mitchell presented their flawed strategy. Dr. Wang, a brilliant engineer turned business leader, was asking penetrating questions that the partners couldn't properly answer. "What about the regulatory implications of combining our patent portfolios?" she asked, particularly regarding the new clean energy guidelines. Mitchell fumbled, spouting vague assurances. I could see Dr. Wang's confidence in the firm wavering. During a break, I found myself alone with her in the hallway. She was reviewing some technical documents, frowning. "The thermal conversion patents," I said quietly. "They're the key to avoiding regulatory overlap." She looked up, surprised. "You understand the technology?" "I've worked with similar systems. If you structure the merger around the thermal conversion process instead of the standard energy production patents, you can bypass the major regulatory hurdles." Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "That's actually brilliant. Are you on the legal team?" "I'm a paralegal," I said, watching her interest fade. "But I've done some research on clean energy regulations." Before she could respond, Mitchell returned, smoothly steering her back to the conference room. But I caught her glancing back at me, considering. The next few weeks were frustrating. I watched the partners miss crucial details, overlook significant risks, and generally mishandle what could be the most important clean energy merger in history. My anonymous suggestions were increasingly ignored as the partners became more convinced of their own infallibility. Then came the crisis that would force my hand. During a late-night review session, I discovered something the partners had missed entirely. A hidden clause in Global Innovation's competitors' contracts that could trigger an automatic sale to a fossil fuel conglomerate if the merger wasn't structured exactly right. It would destroy everything Dr. Wang had built. I tried to bring it to Mitchell's attention, but he was too busy preparing for the next day's critical meeting with all stakeholders. Not now, Ms. Chen, he snapped. We're finalizing the merger structure. Go organize the due diligence files or something. I went back to my desk and made a decision. Opening my laptop, I logged into my private consulting firm's system and began drafting an emergency brief outlining the problem and its solution. I worked through the night, drawing on my years of experience with similar cases. The next morning, everyone gathered in the main conference room: the partners, Global Innovations executives, representatives from the competing company, and a dozen high-powered lawyers from other firms. Mitchell was just starting his presentation when Dr. Wang's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then sat up straighter, suddenly alert. She was reading my brief, sent anonymously through my consulting firm. "Stop," she said, cutting Mitchell off mid-sentence. "There's a serious problem we need to address." She outlined the issue I'd discovered, watching the color drain from the partners' faces. "This could kill the entire deal," one of the competing company's lawyers said. "How did we miss this?" More importantly, Dr. Wang added, "How do we fix it?" Mitchell was sweating. "We'll need time to research. The solution is actually quite straightforward," I said, standing up from my corner seat. The room turned to stare at me. "If I may?" Mitchell's face turned purple. "Ms. Chen, this is not the time for—" "Let her speak," Dr. Wang interrupted. She had a strange look in her eyes, as if putting pieces together. I walked to the presentation screen and pulled up the relevant contracts. For the next 20 minutes, I outlined the problem and presented a detailed solution, drawing on cases and precedents that most of the lawyers in the room had never heard of. The room was silent when I finished. The competing company's lawyers were frantically checking my citations, finding them all perfect. Dr. Wang was smiling slightly. "Who are you?" she asked finally. "Really?" I took a deep breath. It was time. "My name is Sarah Chen," I said, maintaining my composure as I faced the stunned room. "I'm the founding partner of Chen Legal Consulting, specializing in complex corporate mergers and international business law. Over the past 15 years, I've handled over $2 billion in successful corporate transactions." Mitchell's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. The other partners looked like they'd been slapped. "That's impossible," Preston finally sputtered. "You're a paralegal." "Actually," Dr. Wang interrupted, suddenly grinning, "she's the brilliant legal mind behind the Anderson Tech merger last year." I couldn't figure out why her analysis seemed familiar. I worked with her firm on that deal, though never in person. She turned to me. "You've been hiding in plain sight." The competing company's lead counsel was frantically searching on his phone. "Chen Legal Consulting. My God. You're S. Chen, the one who revolutionized technology merger structures in the Zhang case." I nodded. I found I could do better work when people focused on my legal arguments rather than my age, gender, or ethnicity. Working as a paralegal gave me unique insights into how firms actually operate and how many crucial details get overlooked because of hierarchical assumptions. "But why?" Mitchell demanded. "Why work as a paralegal when I've won more major cases than your firm handled last year?" I finished for him. "Because I wanted to see if Preston Mitchell deserved to handle this merger. Global Innovations isn't just another corporate client. Their clean energy technology could help address climate change. This deal needs to be perfect." Dr. Wang stood up. "Well, that settles it. Ms. Chen, or should I say Ms. S. Chen, we want you to lead this merger." "Now wait just a minute," Preston started, but Dr. Wang cut him off. "Either she leads or we find another firm. Your choice." The next hour was chaos. The partners retreated to Mitchell's office for an emergency meeting, while Dr. Wang's team peppered me with questions about my previous cases. Word spread through the firm like wildfire. The quiet paralegal was actually a legal superstar. By afternoon, Preston Mitchell had a new partner. Me. The partners, faced with losing their biggest client, swallowed their pride and offered me full partnership. I accepted, but with conditions. First, I told them, we changed the firm's hiring practices. No more country club recruitment. I want diverse candidates evaluated on merit, not connections. Second, we restructure the paralegal program. Many of your support staff have brilliant insights that you're ignoring. That changes now. And third, I smiled slightly, we're going to handle this merger my way. The next 3 months transformed Preston Mitchell. I brought in my team from Chen Legal Consulting, professionals I'd hired based on talent rather than pedigree. We revolutionized how the firm handled cases, introducing collaborative practices that drew on insights from all levels of staff. The Global Innovations merger became a case study in innovative legal work. We structured it in a way that not only avoided the regulatory pitfalls, but also created a framework for future clean energy companies to follow. The deal closed at $500 million, with projections for the combined company to revolutionize renewable energy within 5 years. But the real changes came in how the firm operated. Junior associates were encouraged to speak up. Paralegals were included in strategy meetings. The hierarchy remained, but it became based on proven ability rather than title or tenure. Linda Martinez, a paralegal with a brilliant mind for tax law, became our new tax department head after revealing she'd been quietly fixing partners' mistakes for years. James Kim, a mailroom clerk studying law at night, was offered a fast-track associate position when we discovered his impressive understanding of international trade law. 6 months after my revelation, I stood in front of a packed auditorium at Yale Law School, giving a guest lecture on the future of legal practice. The law doesn't care about titles, I told the students. It doesn't care where you came from or who you know. What matters is your ability to understand it, apply it, and use it to create positive change. Mitchell, who had become one of my strongest supporters after seeing the results of our new approach, sat in the back, nodding. He'd learned his lesson of judging people by their titles. Last week, a young woman came to interview for a paralegal position. Her resume showed a law degree from a small school, passed over by the big firms. Why apply as a paralegal when you're a qualified lawyer? I asked. She straightened her shoulders. Because I want to learn the law from the ground up, to understand every aspect of how firms really work. Like you did. I hired her as an associate instead. Learn from my example, I told her, but don't repeat it. Your voice deserves to be heard from the start. Preston, Mitchell, and Ross, now Preston, Mitchell, Ross, and Chen, has become known for more than just its prestigious client list. We're known for finding and developing talent in unexpected places, for valuing substance over status. Dr. Wang's clean energy company is thriving, revolutionizing the industry just as we'd hoped. She still jokes about the day she discovered her paralegal was actually her former legal advisor. Best mistake the old boys club ever made, she says, underestimating you. The legal industry is changing, slowly but surely. Other firms have started looking more carefully at their support staff, discovering hidden talent in their own ranks. The old hierarchy is giving way to a more meritocratic system. As for me, I still sometimes miss the quiet anonymity of my paralegal days. But watching young lawyers, especially women and minorities, find their voices in our firm makes it worth it. Yesterday, Mitchell brought me a case he wanted my opinion on. I need your expertise on this, he said, without a trace of his old condescension. Have you asked the paralegals? I replied with a small smile. You'd be surprised what they might notice. He laughed and headed to the paralegal offices. Through my window, I watched him sit down with them, actually listening as they shared their insights. The nameplate on my door reads Sarah Chen, Senior Partner, but it's not the title that matters. What matters is what we do with our knowledge, how we use our position to create positive change. I keep my old paralegal badge in my desk drawer. It reminds me that expertise can wear many disguises, that wisdom can come from unexpected sources. Most importantly, it reminds me that sometimes the best way to change a system is to understand it from the ground up. The law, after all, is about justice, And sometimes justice comes in unexpected packages, from unexpected places, wearing sensible shoes, and carrying a stack of perfectly organized files. Just ask any paralegal. They'll tell you the truth, if you're willing to listen.